All right, go ahead, Mike.
Welcome, fellow guests, Toastmaster and other Toastmasters. Welcome to another meeting of Dallas Social Toastmasters. I wanted to open a quote kind of following the theme today of new beginnings, and here it is. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. As a quote from Steve Jobs, a successful businessman and engineer who changed technology for better forever. Sometimes being into a new thing is kind of scary and a little bit daunting, but it opens many new opportunities and doors for us. Now, if you're so inclined, could you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I would like to introduce the Toastmaster of the meeting, Dagan Newland.
All right, thank you, Mike. As you can see, I picked my theme of new beginnings because I have some new beginnings in my life, and I did put a question mark at the end of that because there's some possible new beginnings coming up as well. So first, let's talk about, first I'll go over the duty holders and some changes, then we'll get into the meeting theme. So just go to the changes real quick. The all counter is now going to be Mark Schroeder. Vote counter is going to be Danielle. And Suleiman's speech for the timer is going to be 8 to 10 minutes. And Rob is 6 to 8. And that should be all the changes. So let's go ahead and go over the duty holders, let them explain their roles. All right, so the first duty holder is going to be the timer, Mike. So Mike, please explain your role as timer.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. As timer, I will be helping the speakers practice expressing a thought within a specific time. My duty during this meeting is to time prepared speeches, table topic speeches, and speech evaluations. The green card indicates minimum goal time. Now, to make this easier for yourself when you're going through your speech, you can pin me and then you can see I will have a background. As you can see right now, I have a green background for minimum goal time. Then I have a yellow background for target time, and then a red background for maximum time. For a 5 to 7 minute prepared speech, I'll show the green card at 5 minutes, the yellow card at 6 minutes, and the red card at 7 minutes, and you will have 30 seconds to finish. For table topics, each speaker is encouraged to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. I will show the green card at 1 minute, the yellow card at 1.5 minutes, and the red card at 2 minutes, and you have 30 seconds to finish. You need 1 minute to qualify for table topics. For evaluators, you have 2 to 3 minutes. The green card is shown at 2 minutes, the yellow at 2.5, and the red at 3. If you speak under or over time by more than 30 seconds, you will be disqualified. It will not be eligible for awards. And then again, for table topics, you need to speak for a minimum of 1 minute. I will report qualifying times when called upon throughout the meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Michael. Our next duty holder is going to be our all counter, Mark Schroeder.
Thank you, Dagan. Yes, as all counter tonight, what I'm going to be doing is listening for verbal crutches, things like occasionally the word so, depends upon the context, but often if you start a sentence with it, that will be a crutch word. Anything that indicates that you are searching for a word and making sounds while you can't find it, because those detract from your message. And I will be recording on paper what I see so that I can present a report at the end. Normally, we would be making noise during the meeting for everyone but the prepared speakers. That's a little bit more difficult on Zoom because the audio does not switch back and forth fast enough to make that reasonable. So I will just make a report at the end of what I hear. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. Our next duty holder is going to be throat counter, Danielle. I know, I'll go ahead and explain your role, Danielle, because I know you're new and you may not know for sure what to say. But vote counter can be Danielle, and if for any votes, when it's time to vote for best, best speaker, table topics, and best evaluator, and best of big three, you'll be asked to vote. So you'll send her a private message to cast your vote to her, and she'll tally those up and give us the total of who wins at the end. Also, if you have any comments for any speaker up here, you can go ahead and send them directly a private message as well. All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. And our last duty holder is going to be our grammarian, Lisa. So Lisa, please explain your role.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and welcome guest. So as grammarian, I will be listening carefully to the use of language and grammar. I will be taking note of the use of the English language as well as any exceptional uses, and also be noting any interesting words and or phrases. As grammarian, it's also my duty to introduce the word of the day. For today's meeting, the word is going to be bumfuzzle, which is to be confused, perplexed, or flustered. So an example of this word is going to be, remember, the truth does not matter, because the idea is to bumfuzzle the questionnaire. I've also put the word of the day into the chat in case you need to remember what that word is. Each speaker is encouraged to use the word of the day. In order to qualify for best table topic speech, you have to use the word of the day in your response to the question or topic. I will be keeping note of who uses the word of the day, and I will give a report when called upon at the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. And I just want to say thank you for all those explanations of your roles. So everybody did a really good job. So I'll give everybody a cheer. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the theme, a new beginning. So I know some of y'all may have seen my post on the WhatsApp app for those other members about we found 3 little kittens under our house. It's been about, a week ago, because I called out from the last meeting. I couldn't come until we found those kittens when I got home from work, and we decided to pull them out because we actually heard them start to meow under the house Wednesday morning, and then by the time Thursday afternoon they were still meowing every so often. So we knew the mother probably either abandoned them or something happened to the mother, because that's the first time I ever heard of the kittens being under there. Because if the mother had been coming back, the kittens wouldn't be meowing like that, or they would have done it sooner. So my other half got around to the side of the house, and there's actually found a little hole under the foundation of the house, because we have a pier and beam, so we have a little crawl space from there. So one actually started coming out of the hole. The other 2 were still in there. So I go into this crawl space underneath the house, and I get closer and closer, and one goes out the hole, and he's on the other side, gets the cat, and I get closer and closer, and the third one finally goes out. So we grab them all, scoop them all up, give them the cage, and then we went to get some cat litter and some kitten food. Made a makeshift litter box real quick. And so it's been a week now, and I think they're really cute. We estimated them probably about 4 weeks at the time when we got them, so they're about 5 weeks old now. And one thing that really amazes me, I don't know if y'all know about this about kittens, but now I've actually talked to somebody else that actually recently got kittens too, that they are really easy to potty train versus a dog. We put them in the litter box, after they ate the first time, and like a day and a half later, they're already know where the litter box is, and they know how to use it and all that good stuff. It's like, whereas a dog, it could take weeks to get them potty trained, if that. But that's like one of the new beginnings for me. We decided to at least keep one, but now we're thinking maybe keep all 3. Not for sure, but I can't look. I'm looking forward to see how this turns out, and because we actually had a cat a long time ago, but it had feline leukemia, so we had to put it down, because I don't know about now, but back then there was no cure for that. So it might be good to have a little cat in the house, because they're self-maintenance, self-maintained. So but anyway, that's one of my new beginnings. More to come, especially about the question mark side of it. So let's go ahead and get to our first speaker, which is going to be Suleiman, and his evaluator is going to be Anne. If we're ready for that, Anne, can you please explain how you're going to do evaluation for Suleiman?
Yes. Suleiman will be presenting today a speech called Global Epidemic. It's a 5 to 7 minute speech. And the purpose of his speech is to learn to do basic research, basic methods, and presenting a well-organized, well-researched speech.
Okay.
And it's going to be 8 to 10 minutes, just FYI.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And it's 30 minutes, 30 seconds leeway, right? After 10 minutes, so it's 10,
Right.
10 minutes,
Yes.
right?
Yes. All right. So let's welcome Suleiman with Global Epidemic, which is 8 to 10 minutes. Global Epidemic, Suleiman.
Thank you very much.
And just real quickly, as your Zoom coordinator, make sure that you have your timer mic visible. You may have to hit the ... and pin him to your screen so that he stays on your screen, because if he's quiet, you otherwise won't have him.
Cool. Are we all set?
Yeah, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Perfect. Today, I'm going to speak with you about a problem, which is the global loneliness epidemic. Humans have evolved over millions of years as tribal beings and are hardwired for connection. Human connection has been found to be as essential to our well-being as food and water. But what has happened is, with advances in technology, we have become globally connected, but locally we've become isolated. And what this has resulted in is this fundamental core human need for connection no longer being met, leaving individuals isolated and disconnected. Loneliness serves a vital function like hunger and thirst, warning us that social connection is lacking. What I'm going to do now is share some stats around loneliness. So the first thing is that loneliness does not discriminate. It transcends sex, education, race, socioeconomic status, geography. No group is exempt. From the US Loneliness Index, 61% of the national population is struggling with loneliness. 39% of the national population feels serious loneliness. So that's more than half of the population is struggling with loneliness, and more than a third of the population is struggling with serious loneliness. 49% feel they lack companionship. 45% feel they're no longer close to anyone. 61% feel their interests and ideas are not shared by those around them. The average American's friends have halved over the last couple decades. And during this time, there has been a 3 times increase in Americans who say they have no close confidence. And these numbers are universal. Studies in Australia, Japan, UK, Germany, France, Scandinavia, and other countries echo the exact same results. What's even more concerning is that researchers consider these numbers to be conservative due to the stigma associated with people talking about feelings of social isolation and disconnection. So they're actually even more so. The question becomes, what is causing this global loneliness epidemic? Like, what is it? So I shared how it's advances in technology that are driving it, but let me kind of break it down a little bit and share some core changes that have taken place in the world over the last few decades. Number one is digitization. We can work, shop, order food, buy groceries, stream movies, interact with businesses without ever leaving our home or connecting with another human being. Another one is advances in transportation, which has caused a surge in migrations. So globally, 11% of the entire world population migrates within their country every year. So 11%, that's over 800 million people each year move to a new city or town. And international migrations have tripled over the last couple decades. So there's so much of the world population is in a new place every year, and there is no avenue or structure to meet new people in the new life that they're in. Erosion of local community is another reason. For centuries, our relationships came from local communities, groups, churches, volunteer groups. But over the last few decades, those groups, as well as participation in them, has significantly decreased, over 30%. So this has now created a huge void. For centuries, we've gotten our main connections through this, and it now no longer exists. Remote work. Globally, 16% of companies are fully remote. 31% of employed Americans report working remotely several times a week. And then it's independence, increase in single-person households. The number of single-person households has steadily been increasing over the last few decades globally. In the EU right now, single-person households are actually more than any other household type. Plus, people are also delaying getting married. And this has coincided directly with the loneliness epidemic. And then to top it all off, we also have the global pandemic that just happened in 2019 and has lasted for several years, which has accelerated all of this. And so now what I'm going to do is share a couple of world leaders and what they've done to address this problem. So Theresa May was a UK Prime Minister who in 2018 appointed a Minister of Loneliness to tackle this growing issue. Now, this was 2018, before COVID happened. So it was already such a huge crisis at that time. And I'm going to read her quote. From working more flexibly, but also more remotely, to doing our shopping online, the warmth of human contact risks receding from our lives. Across our communities, there are people who go for days, weeks, or even months without seeing a friend or family member. For far too many, loneliness is the sad reality of modern life. That loss of social contact is incredibly damaging to our humanity and to the health and well-being of everyone affected. The critical importance of this growing social injustice, which sits alongside childhood obesity and mental well-being, as one of the greatest public health challenges of our time. Appointing a loneliness minister is our first step towards ending loneliness in our lifetimes. So not only did she do that, but the UK government started publishing an annual loneliness report to track loneliness each year and have been doing it since 2008. Few years later, Japanese Prime Minister followed and also appointed a loneliness minister, seeing the increasing impact of loneliness on the country. In Tokyo, there's such loneliness in Japan that in Tokyo, there's actually a popular service that allows customers to hire companions to join them for meals or activities. And then now finally in the US, the US Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, he was the 19th US Surgeon General, and he's again the 21st at the moment as well. But once he got appointed, this is what he said. As the 19th Surgeon General of the United States, I expected that my focus as the nation's doctor would encompass issues like obesity, tobacco-related disease, mental health, vaccine-preventable illnesses, but loneliness ran like a dark thread through many of the issues that people brought to my attention, like addiction, violence, anxiety, and depression. That's when it dawned on me that there is something much bigger happening here than I previously thought. He went on to declare loneliness as a public health crisis in our country and has also written a book to bring attention to it. The book is called Together: The Healing Power of Human Connection in a Sometimes Lonely World. So these are three leaders in three different continents all talking about the same thing. So what is the impact of loneliness? What is the impact that it is? So everyone is identifying it, but what is the impact? So I'll share 5 main areas where it's impact. One is health. It has a devastating impact on our health and nervous system because it's a core fundamental need. If you didn't get water or food, what would happen? It's the same thing. So it leads to increased risk of heart disease, stroke, premature death, dementia, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, chronic inflammation, high blood pressure, and other chronic diseases. Mental health crisis. So currently in the US, 1 in 5 adults are suffering from a mental health condition. What's mind-blowing is that all of them share one thing in common: loneliness. Addiction, because there is no alternative to meeting people, people try and fill that void through drugs, alcohol, food, sex to numb the emotional pain. Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, quoted the connection between loneliness and addiction. Almost without exceptions, alcoholics are tortured by loneliness. Really, all of us suffered the feeling that we didn't quite belong. Violence, for years, research have connected violence to loneliness, and then the impact, the financial impact on the economy from healthcare utilization. Now, my mind. In 2013, this is before COVID had happened, 75% of general practitioners, physicians in the UK reported that they saw between 1 in 5 patients each day whose visit was primarily driven by loneliness. And so it's having a devastating impact on our society: health, mental health crisis, addiction, violence, financial impact, right? And so overcoming loneliness and building a more connected future is an urgent mission that we must tackle. The reality is that we are in a global loneliness epidemic, and it's continuing to accelerate. We know the devastating impact it's having on society. But the good news is we know why it's happening and what is causing it. It's the modern world. The world has changed, but humans have not. And so we are missing that connection. And we also know what the antidote to loneliness is. It's human connection. And so the question becomes, how do you integrate human connection into this new world? And that is our mission at Connect. What we are doing is we're leveraging technology to facilitate human connection in this modern world. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the problem we are solving, the impact it's having, and what our mission is. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to our next speaker today, which is going to be Rob Giles. And evaluating Rob is Karen. So Karen, please explain how you're going to be evaluating Rob.
Rob's speech tonight is, the purpose of his project is for him to practice developing and presenting a longer humorous speech. And his speech length time here is 18 to 22 minutes. Is that correct? No, okay. I'm bumfuzzled.
6 to 8. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So let's welcome Rob Giles with Human Nature. Human Nature, Rob Giles. You're on mute, Rob.
We all have times where we go out into nature, we experience the wealth of goodness that's out there for us, things that can help us to lift our spirits, to lift us from loneliness. These are things that some of us do regularly. Also things that for some of us, we don't do often enough. We don't get out there. We don't experience nature. And what I want to get into tonight is, what is the connection between nature and humans? What is human nature? Let me give you a setting that I experienced a while back. I went with a few family members to Allegheny State Park in New York State. And you can see in the background here, this is a photo of part of that park. And in this trip that we took, it was myself and 4 women. Now, if it wasn't a family affair, you might think, oh, 1 guy to 4 women? You know, what guy wouldn't want that, right? But what you might not realize is that those 4 women for me, not only were just not family, but they were my sisters. So 2 sisters, my mother, and my aunt. Now, I did feel like I was kind of the man of the trip. However, I was only about 12 years old. And I want to get into a few things that happened during this not so glorious trip. And hopefully some of it will reveal some of the tendencies that we have as humans, especially when we're out in nature. So we set up our campsite, and we had a trailer and we had a tent. Now, in the trailer, there was room, in my opinion, for probably 6 people, maybe more even. That's where the 4 women in the camping trip stayed. I stayed in a little pup tent, about maybe 10 yards away. And this was all fine. I was fine with it. I wanted to be a little bit more connected with nature. So being in a tent at night was totally fine. But then came nature. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, it started to rain. And by about 1:15, it was starting to pour. It was gushing. I was in the pup tent and I felt like I was on a waterbed. We were on a hill, and as it was coming down, I could feel it coming under the tent. And eventually, I just want to say that this tent was not waterproof. It was water resistant, but it definitely was not waterproof. Once I started to feel some of that water coming and seeping through the tent itself, I thought, this is crazy. There's a camper right next to me that I can go and be dry in. So I unzipped, I trekked all over. The rain was coming down. I tell you, man, it was torrential. I had to push against the wind. And finally, after probably about 5 seconds, I reached the door to the camper, knocked on it calmly. It was 1:15, 1:30 at that point. Waited, no answer. I knocked a little louder, said, "Is anybody in there?" Finally, the door opened. And a little eye poked its way out and said, "Yeah?" I said, "Can I come in? It's raining a little bit. It's getting into my tent." "I'm sorry, there's no room in here." I couldn't believe it. The door shut. I banged again. I said, "It's pouring out here. Just let me in. I'll take any space. I'll sleep on the floor." "There's no room in here," from behind the door. I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely, totally bumfuzzled. Rain was coming down. I was soaked. All of a sudden, I heard from behind the door in the camper, "Go sleep in the car." Now, that should have struck me a little bit earlier, but maybe because I was bumfuzzled, I didn't think about it. So I went into the car, opened up, and laid down in the back seat. All of the wetness that was with me now was all over the back seat. So it was fun sleeping on a wet back seat. By the time that rain had stopped and the morning had come, I came out. We had breakfast, if you want to call it that. I had some wet cereal that was in my pup tent. And we ended up going to take a trip to what you see behind me, right here, which is the administration building, which has some things that you can purchase and some other things that you can do there. And when we got in the car, what did I hear? "Why is this back seat all wet?" I just shook my head. It was unbelievable. I said, "What do you mean? You refused for me to come into the camper. This is where you told me to lay down. If it's wet, it's not my fault." But ultimately, if you think about it, it is kind of human nature to self-preserve, right? And although I'm not 100% convinced, I'm gonna let that be their excuse as to why they didn't let me into the camper. It was human nature. They just wanted to be sure that they were okay. Heaven forbid that I come in with my wet clothes and stomp all over and maybe push them around, who knows? But it was also my human nature that eventually got me into the car and gave me at least a little bit of rest, even if it was just a little bit wet. When you think about it, human nature, survival, all of that, there may be more rough spots out in the wilderness. This isn't, it's just a family going camping. But sometimes human nature can take over. But the question is, what do you do when it comes to human nature and those you love? Do you overcome it in order to accommodate the people that you love? Well, I found out that in certain situations that does not take place. So ultimately, the camping trip ended. And it was a good experience for me because I learned a lot. I learned that my mother, my sisters, and my aunts, well, human nature or not, they could push me off into the car instead of bringing me into a dry camper. But I still love them. And every summer when I see them, especially when we go camping, I'm sure to bring that up to them. Think about your nature. What are your tendencies? What do you do? Do you accommodate other people in your life? Do you think only of yourself? Now, there are times, just like when those masks fall from the airplane when there's a problem, you have to take care of yourself first. But you do have to take care of the people around you, especially the ones you love. And I feel ultimately that's what human nature should be. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. So we had two great speeches tonight. But first, I need to call upon a time report. Michael, did the speakers qualify on time?
Suleiman qualified with 6 seconds left, and then Rob went a little bit over.
Okay. All right. So in this case, we do not need to vote for best speaker. But if you do have a anything you want to mention to either Rob or Suleiman on how well he did, they do get a formal evaluation. But if you have anything that that you thought they did good or can improve on, you can send them a private message as well. All right, let's talk about some more new beginnings. First of all, for those that see me for a while, I'm going to test your abilities to notice change. So, does anybody notice a change with me? Is there anything different about me besides John?
Did you cut your beard shorter?
Yeah, your
Yes.
beard was shorter.
Yes, I did. So, this is part of my question mark of new beginnings. So, it's a little story. My boss recently got promoted, and he's moving to another store. I work at the my firewall location, and he's moving to a bigger store at our North Park store. And so which leaves his position open. So I figured I'm going to apply for it. So there's a possibility, that's what the question is, there's a possibility of me getting a promotion in the future, which I'm hoping I get. But the thing is, it might take a little bit because our store manager also got promoted, and he's moving to a bigger store as well. And actually, both of them have already left the building, which actually puts me kind of in charge on the support side. So I'm actually kind of running the show since his last day was Monday. So, but I've done that before. I've actually ran the show for a whole fourth quarter one time. But unfortunately, we had to wait till they announced a new store manager, because the new store manager is the one that would be interviewing me for this position, which is going to be the operations visual manager, which I would really hope I get, because I know that job backwards and forward. So I just really hope I get it. And I've talked to my boss before he left, saying I'm going to apply for it. Talked to another manager, said I was going to apply for it. And they both said, yeah, go for it. And I talked to the sales associates I work with, which if I get the position, I would actually be over them. Well, actually, I'm kind of over them kind of already, but I'd actually officially be their boss. And they all say, yeah, great, man. I'd love to, for you to be my boss. So what's really, humbled me. So I really appreciate that they would say that like that. So in the meantime, I'm gonna be befuddled until I hear word of we get a new store manager and they actually post the position online so I can actually apply for it. So remember, new beginnings can be as little as getting a new kitten in your life and see how that goes, up to possibly getting a nice, good promotion, which obviously would come with a good pay raise. At least I hope, right? All right, so we're our table topics, which is going to be Lee King. So Lee, you can take it away, and after you're through, you can go ahead and pass it over to the joint evaluator.
All right. So this is the table topics portion of the meeting where you get to speak off the cuff for 1 to 2 minutes. You do have to use the word of the day, puzzled. And right now I'm the only one that does questions, although everybody will get to know the question, but you don't know when or if you'll be called on that particular question. The theme for tonight is new beginnings. We usually associate new beginnings with spring, although people associate new beginnings with other times of the year, which begs the question, other than spring, what time of year do you associate with new beginnings? Mark Schroeder.
You asked the question, what time other than spring do I associate with new beginnings? Wow, I'm not sure there is one, really. That question is quite bumfuzzling. If I had picked, there would be obviously maybe two that would be candidates. One would be, of all the silly places in the world, July 1st, because it's the beginning of the Toastmasters year. I still don't understand why they do that. So we're not going to pick that one. So I'm going to go back to January 1st. January 1st has got to be the closest one. Just because January 1st is a time when I will go out of my way to do a sort of personal evaluation, try to figure out where I am on goals, what my goals need to be for the new year. I don't do resolutions, but I do goals at least. So I try to figure out how things have been going, what has not been going right. You can think of it as what needs to be thrown out and what needs to be continued. So that is something that I will do at the beginning of January. That's when it actually gets instantiated. I do the legwork of trying to figure out what the changes will be just a week or two before that. And it usually puts me in a really bad mood because, well, things do not always go perfectly during the year. There are a lot of things that you always wish were different. And that kind of an introspection points out the things that you did not do well on that you need to do better on the next year. But that would be what I would pick. I'd just go ahead and pick January 1st. Back to you.
This next question will be more along the types that you would probably hear during a job interview, which is, tell us about a time that you had a life-changing event that you felt was a new beginning in your life, and how did you adjust to that change? Danielle.
I was hoping I didn't get this question, but thank you. So a time in my life where I had to adjust to a big change. Okay. There were plenty of times. For one, I mean, you guys already know about this. My move to Texas, I'm still adjusting to. I'm still adjusting to the move here. Another time, what I had to adjust to change was when I became a teacher back in Florida. I had to adjust to new rules, new coworkers, working with new students, different personalities, and things of that nature. And I learned a lot about myself. In that time, I would say it was a different chapter in my life. I was able to learn a lot about myself and learn how to work with people with different personalities as well. So that was a big time change in my life. It was a little bum fuzzling as well, working with the students and working with kids on different levels as well. So that I would say that was a challenging time in my life. Thank you.
Another good interview question about new beginnings and change goes something like this. Tell us about one thing that you feel like you need to change within your work performance. Eva.
Thank you. One thing I need to change about my work performance is, which is quite bumfuzzling at times, is my procrastivity. This perpetuates my procrastination. And so changing my workflow to prioritizing what is most important would be something that would be beneficial to changing in my work performance. I think it would make me more efficient. And I feel that it would decrease any undue stress that keeps me bumfuzzled throughout the week. And so if I had to change anything about my work performance, it would be to prioritize those things that are of most importance. I think my colleagues would appreciate this most and diminish my anxiety and my it would increase my time management. And so prioritization, more efficient workflow would decrease and reduce my bumfuzzlingness and increase my efficiency. Hey, you caught me off guard, Lee.
All right. We have time for one more question. Some people enjoy change, other people embrace change only because that's the way life is. So it begs the question, are you the type of person that likes change, or are you more of the person that embraces change? Michael. And I think probably Mark or someone could take your role as timer.
I can, just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Ready?
Let me pin you.
Yeah, I'll have to go back on and get the timer.
Yeah, I pinned you.
Cool. I'll get the timer slides ready. Go for it.
Wait a second. Yeah, so I would probably say that I am not a person who likes to see change. I like to see consistency and a more scheduled thing that I'm used to. However, I will say something that I really value about myself is that although I don't like big life changes like moving across the country or getting out of college or things like that, I do a very good job of trying new things throughout my life. About 3 years ago, I was looking for a hobby to do when I started working for Texas Instruments as an intern. I ended up going to a rock climbing gym down the street. That's a new thing. It's kind of changed. It's not a big change, but it's kind of a small change. And then recently, within the last year or two, I started going to a ninja gym. And for people who are wondering what a ninja gym is, it's kind of like training for the show American Ninja Warrior. I just decided one day I wanted to try that out and figure how that works out for me and give it a stab. So although I don't like big life changes such as moving, job change, things like that, I am very open to small incremental change to my habits to make myself a more fulfilled person. But it's very bum-puzzling when you're learning something new because you don't always be very good at it from the very beginning. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster, or Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'll now call for a timers report.
Mark, Danielle, and Ava all qualified, and then based on what I saw with Mark, I qualified as well.
At 1:30, yes.
All right, so please vote for the person that you felt did the best job. You will send your votes to Danielle as she is vote counter. Your choices for this evening would be Mark Schroeder, Danielle, Ava, and Michael.
Everyone use the word of the day too.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, and
You're good.
I
I
think
got
because I
you.
heard everybody use the word of the day. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good. You're good. I got you.
All right, and if we could please have general evaluator. Who's our general evaluator for this evening?
I am.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. This is the third part of our meeting tonight. And that is the evaluation portion of the meeting. We do a good job with our speaking and our table topics, but now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty and find out how we did. So evaluation is that portion of the meeting, and we're going to hear from our general evaluators for each of the speaker. We'll hear from myself as a general evaluation of the meeting, and then also from our duty holders for tonight. So I want to start first with our evaluators for our prepared speeches. And Suleiman's evaluator is Anne. And please tell us your evaluation for Suleiman.
I loved your speech. Oh my goodness, it was so good. And I'm in the field of mental health, and I'm thinking, why have I not heard these statistics? You hear rumors of, yeah, with COVID, people are kind of isolated, but wow, gosh, that was fantastic, the information you gave us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I loved it. So you went right into telling us about what you were going to do. You were very clear. You got to the point. Organized, introduction, body, conclusion. As far as vocal variety goes, I thought your voice was clear and strong. Really good projection. I would have had a bit more vocal variety. You did have a little bit, but I mean, there's so much you could have said with those statistics. Oh my goodness. So that's an example. Also, more body language. You could have had things are going up or something to really get your body involved. But the information was so gripping, I didn't really miss it because I was so moved by the information. And you gave research that was, I thought, absolutely superb. So you well accomplished your goal of doing research. And it was eye-opening. My goodness, I loved it. What could you do better? Well, I wanted a more attention-grabbing beginning. For example, the title, most of us probably went to, you're going to talk about the COVID crisis, but you didn't. And so you could have said something that really, what sort of global epidemic are we talking about here, to get us say, oh, this, that, the other, and get us thinking. And then actually it's loneliness. And I wanted more going front of the camera too from you. Also, I thought audience participation, you could have had some of that there. And maybe some imagery as far as telling a story of one particular person who was loneliness controlled his life. And also the ending. I loved how you gave your organization And I wanted to know what we could do, maybe a call to action at the end, like tune into our podcast, which is weekly, or now that you have this information, look at the people in your life. Who needs your hello, your smile, a conversation? Wherever you go, be looking for these people. But altogether, loved it. Well done. I look forward to more.
Thank you very much, Anne. Greatly appreciated. Very, very useful feedback.
Thank you, Anne. And now the second evaluator for this evening is Karen Lee, and she's going to be evaluating Rob Giles' speech about his camping trip. So, Karen, will you please just give us your evaluation for Rob, please?
Well, tonight I'm going to tell Rob what I saw and what I heard during his speech. And first of all, I wanted to say you excelled because you stood up and you delivered when you were delivering your speech. You also used great gestures and body language. At one point, your face got right in front of the camera. And your photo that was behind made a very good prop. You also used your clothes when you wore your hat, your cap, and your short sleeve t-shirt. And you're moving around. You looked a lot like a little boy when you were talking to us. And you also used the humor in your speech. One example was when you talked about the one man with the 4 women, but then later you said that you were only 12 years old. So, and you also utilized good eye contact when you're looking at the camera during your speech. And you're very comfortable with your audience. One suggestion that I would give you for improvement is to watch your time that you had during your speech. You also excelled at communicating with the spoken word. You used your rate, your voice tone and volume during your speech. And I thought you appeared very comfortable with your audience. And the theme of your speech was very well organized. But then in summary, you excelled with your body language and your gestures. You used your clothing, your hat, during your speech to make yourself look like a little boy. And you also utilized your good eye contact, and you were comfortable with the audience. And I would go ahead and watch the timing in your speech, and you excelled communicating when you used your voice. And back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you both my evaluators. You both did very excellent job tonight. I do want to call for a timers report. So Michael, did both my evaluators qualify on time?
Yes, it did qualify on time, both.
Thank you, Michael. Now we'll give a short evaluation of my meeting tonight, and then we'll hear from our duty holders so they have a chance to judge me. Don't judge me too harshly. Oh, Rob, I've got the answer for you. All your speeches are now going to be 5 to 30 minutes, and then we'll be good. You'll always make time. There. All right. Yes, just another attack on Rob. We love you. Just messing with you. Okay. Tonight's meeting. Well, we started on time, I think. I don't know. I was watching Zoom and I wasn't watching the clock, but that's cool. Good theme tonight, new beginnings. Best of luck on all your new beginnings, Dagan. Yes, luckily cats are easily housebroken, so you don't have to worry about them. It comes so natural to them. I don't know why. But maybe you might be able to get rid of one of them, if not both of them, or 2 of them, so you only have one, unless you just really are falling in love with all 3 of them at the same time. But good material, good beginnings. Table topics, you were on theme, had 4 good questions about the theme of new beginnings and how that they can answer those questions, and they were real common questions, so it wasn't difficult for people to answer what what the new beginners were for what kind of chances or challenges or interests that they have. So it always makes for a good table topics that they don't have to work themselves to death. Also, good organization. Everybody, thanks for, everybody chipping in and jumping in and filling the roles that were missed, that, we ended up leaving open, and especially at the last minute. Thank you always for all your help you give us during Toastmasters. We're a team. So now I'd like to go ahead to our duty holders report. And we're going to go ahead and start with our awe counter, which was Mark Schroeder. So Mark, how we did on awes tonight?
Sure, thank you, John. Well, for one thing, of course, you didn't hear any clicks because we're just not doing that on Zoom. So here's the report that I have. I'll start off with Mike. And for Mike, I have actually three total, 2 ums, 1 I'm not really sure that those are not isomorphic to each other, so they probably should be combined. But all total, I caught you on 3, which is not bad. Lisa, only caught you with 1 Dagan, at least 1 and 1 so. And I should have noted whether that was at the beginning of a sentence or just a trailing off of a sentence. So that kind of. Suleiman, there were no ahs, no ums, no word, nothing in the way of a crutch word, but I did notice a word bauble or two. There were words that you stumbled over and had to go and try to repeat them to say them correctly during your sentences, just once or twice, not bad. Lee, you started off, the moment you were called on, you started off with so. Something that a lot of us will do. Start our sentences, and in fact, the very first intro sentence was so. Danielle, caught you with 2 ums tonight. Eva, we have, let's see, Eva, 3 ahs, 2 ums. John, so far, if you've said any, I've missed them. You've been clean. And everybody else that is on our agenda so far that I'm looking at here this has been clean. So that I didn't notice any from Ann, didn't notice any from Karen, really. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mark. What I did forget myself tonight was call for a vote of who we thought did the best job as evaluator between Ann and Karen. So if you would take a moment, send a private chat to Danielle of who you thought did the best job for evaluator this evening. Again, that is either Ann who did Suleiman's or Karen that did Rob's. Excuse me. Now, our next duty holder for tonight is Lisa. Lisa is our grammarian. So Lisa, can you give us your report, please?
Okay, so I just said so. For grammarian, so for Suleiman, this is what I caught for you. You used the phrase hardwired for connection. I thought that was a good description. Erosion of local communities. Minister of loneliness. This one had me bumfuzzled. I don't really know what that is. I'm going to do some research on that one. I found that interesting. Use mental health crisis. Use the word state. Stats blew my mind. And then devastating impact. So I thought those were all very descriptive. Rob, you started out with wealth of goodness. I thought that was good. You called yourself the man. I thought that was very a good description. Used gushing and like on a waterbed, the word torrential. And then you also used the phrase little eye poked out. So I thought those were all really descriptive uses of words. That is my report. Back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I'd like to go ahead and now call for a vote on the best of the big 3. Now, our big 3 this evening are our Toastmaster, Dagan Newland, our Table Topics Master, Lee King, or myself, John Vessels, as General Evaluator. So now if you will take a moment, send out a private chat to Danielle and let her know who you thought did the best job with the big three, among the big three, actually, I guess you should say. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the business portion of our meeting and with our president, Lee Key.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome to the business meeting. We will start with the introduction of our one guest for this evening. Gunnar, will you please share with us what you thought about tonight's meeting?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, well, hi. So I guess you already see my name on the screen, and it was already said, so I don't think I need to say it again. Yeah, I really enjoyed the meeting. I liked the, I guess it's just kind of tricky keeping up with each of the different roles and who evaluates who and all of the different titles, but I did enjoy the meeting. I think it is really helpful to listen to other people give speeches and critique each other in order to improve your own speaking presentation skills.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And
Lee,
you're also
Eva is still a guest as well, please.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Eva, will you please share with us what you thought about tonight's meeting? I know both of y'all have been here before. So.
Thank you. Yes, as mentioned previously, I thought the structure was all there. I really appreciate the efficiency of the meeting, the opening with making sure everyone signed in, providing that in various formats to accommodate everyone with the QR code or providing the link in the chat, to clarifying all of the guidelines and for just all of the formalities that are all in place. I really appreciate that. And I thought it ran smoothly. My only, and I don't know if this is just part of the structure and the format and the expectation, is opportunities to speak to, for everyone to have an opportunity to speak toward and critique others, or to just speak to what they appreciated. Like I would have liked to speak toward Rob's speech and kind of the things that I agreed with Anne's critique or Karen's critique, and just things like that. So, but I thought it was great. Thank you so much for sending the reminders and having me here. And yeah, and I think I might have had more ums, but I'm glad that Mark only got the 3. So yes, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate.
You're welcome. Usually at the face-to-face meetings, we have on the portions of the ballot that are blank that you can write notes, and then you just put that in the cups for the vote counter to pick up, and then they'll pass those notes on. So you can certainly do it that way. You can also, I guess here you can just send a private message to anybody that you want to provide critiques with. Also, in order to try to provide everybody with an opportunity to speak at least once during the meeting, typically it's encouraged that the table topics not fall on a prepared speaker or one of the big 3, but rather guests, if they're interested, or people that have the more minor roles, avoiding the speech evaluators as well. It's just a good way to try to get as many people talking as possible. Next, I know that Mark has a social event lined up at Tricky Fish. Hopefully the fish are not moving when you go to eat them. I always wondered if the fish are somewhat tricky and they start to try to move on you when you're trying to eat them. I don't know.
Don't you like sushi?
So
I think that would be
Anyway, I think-
sashimi, would it not? Not to be too picky.
So I
Yeah,
believe,
so you want for me to discuss the event real quick?
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at is I am looking at Tricky Fish. There are two of them. There's one at City Line, which I have been to and really enjoyed it. But the one that is closer to Ozona Grill is actually on Walnut Hill, it looks like, just on the other side of Central, on the SMU side of Central. And the plan is for anybody that wants to give me an RSVP, and we will meet there 11 a.m. on Saturday, coming up here in a couple of days, to share a lunch. And no, this is not a Toastmaster. It's a Toastmaster outing, but it's not a Toastmaster meeting. You're not going to have to prepare a speech. There's not going to be any speakers. We're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. It's just a social get together. So 11 o'clock, Tricky Fish, Walnut Hill. It's pretty easy to find. If any of our guests tonight are interested, let me know, and I can make sure you also have the information. But that is the plan. I kind of need an RSVP just to get an idea of how many people to get seats for by, let's say, noon tomorrow, noon on Friday.
okay. Next week, we'll have officer installation. We will be back at Ozona and face-to-face. Also, the following week will be the week of the club contest. So for that particular meeting, first of all, I guess we need to see who is interested. Do we have anybody here interested in competing in either table topics or humorous speech? So humorous speech is the 5 to 7 minute speech. It can be on anything. Usually things that are more humorous in nature tend to win. And then there's table topics, which is what you saw tonight. It's 1 to 2 minutes of speech. So do we have anybody that's wanting to compete? The actual area contest is on September the 9th is the actual contest, which will be via Zoom. So one thing that we noticed, I noted earlier, was that the area contests would be face-to-face, and then hybrid option for division and district. However, I guess Toastmasters International interceded and told districts that they had to either do the contest either virtual or it face-to-face. They didn't have the opportunity, which means that all contests will actually be virtual. So with that said, we want to just get a head count of how many people would be wanting to do a virtual meeting on the week after next, so that we could, those of you that are interested in competing can compete in the format at the club level, in the format that you would want to compete at the area level, division and district. But first, do we have anybody that's interested in competing to start with? Because if we have no contestants, then we don't really have a contest. Okay, so Rob, okay. Eva, are you going to join?
Yeah, I thought Anne was the treasurer. Sorry, Anne.
But that's okay.
I couldn't remember who the treasurer was.
Okay.
Hey, Dagan. Okay.
Dagan,
I'm gonna
yeah.
get with you if that's okay. I don't know if we can meet after this and I can chat with you about that, if that's okay.
Yes, as long
Yeah.
as you are paid up, if you pay this week or next week, then you're good to go. That's the only requirement for this particular contest, is you have to be a member in good standing. So we do have a couple of people interested. Do we have anybody else that's interested in competing? Okay. And really, then in that case, we have two people.
I do want to say this, Lee, for myself, I'll compete in both. I do want to say that I don't feel that for myself that it's necessary to do a virtual. So, depending upon the other competitors, the other speakers, if they also feel that way, then we can still have an in-person meeting.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So it looks to me like we only have one other competitor. So Eva, did you feel more comfortable trying to compete virtually? Or does it matter to you?
It doesn't matter. I'm indifferent. I think I would prefer face to face, but I'm flexible and I'm open to either one.
Okay.
Yeah, you just have to understand that the further, like if you compete and win at the club, the next level, like Lee said, will be virtual.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to shame you all. I'll compete. That doesn't mean I'm gonna win, but I'm open to
I have a
giving
chance as
it
long
the
as I
old
don't go
college
overtime.
try.
Okay. It sounds to me like neither one of the contestants, and Rob, you're competing in both humorous and table topics, or one or the other? Both? Okay. Eva, how about you? Are you wanting to compete in both or one or the other?
Yeah, I'll do both.
Okay. So we will have a contest. If both of y'all are happy and prefer to do things in person, then I don't see the reason to have anyone else really vote. It's going to be the two of y'all. So we'll just go ahead and plan on doing everything in person, and we'll figure out from there who the contest master and timers and everything will be.
Now, and we would be going as a team and competing against others, not competing against each other. Is that right, Rob? Or
Well, so you
right, Lee?
compete against each other here at the club level, and then if you win at the club, you'll go to the area contest, which is on a Friday night. It starts at 7 o'clock, and then from there, if you win area, then you'll go to division, which is later in the year, closer to November. And then if you
Gotcha.
win that, then you'll compete at district, which would be in May.
Gotcha. You're going down, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm just
every
kidding.
time
I'm
you-
just
every time
kidding.
you win, you
You're
go to
really
the
good. I'm just kidding, Rob.
Oh, that's okay.
Well,
Jump
with
in.
that, I'm sorry, Gunnar?
Yeah, that's okay if I jump in with a quick question.
Yeah.
Are we voting on one of the two, or are they just voting? That's what I thought I heard a second ago.
Well, we will vote, yes. So obviously the two competitors probably won't, well, they definitely can't vote for table topics because one of them will not be in the room when the other one is competing, so they wouldn't have even heard the other person's speech. Humorous speech, they'll both hear. Traditionally, we don't have the two contestants, vote, and then the vote counters obviously don't vote. Usually we will find some people within the club that doesn't really have a role to vote and guests for that particular night. Sergeant at arms would be another position that really can't vote because they're not going to be in the room when, at least one of the sergeant at arms would not be in the room when the table topics person competes. And that's just because we use the same question for table topic for both contestants. To make it fair, you kind of can't be in the room at the same time. Does anybody else have anything?
Yes, Lee. So time is creeping up slowly. About to start a new 6 months of Toastmasters, which is the current term ends September 30th. So dues will be due. I will send those out to the current members, a invoice, so y'all can pay that, or you can catch me at the meeting and pay it there as well. Either way is fine, but I'll go ahead and send the invoices out by email as well. So just remember, I'll get those out here fairly soon. All right,
Yes,
back to you,
thanks.
Lee.
All right, let's go ahead and get a vote counters report.
All right. Our favorite part of the night, voters report. All right, so we know that Suleiman did win for best speaker. So good job. All right, and for table topics. Can I get an air drum roll, please? Table topics. Oh, thank you, thank you. Best table topics is Michael. Good job, Michael. All right, and evaluator, can I get another air drum roll? Best evaluator goes to Ann. Is it Annie or Ann? I can't remember. Sorry.
It's Anne, but Annie is what I was called as a child, so no problem.
Okay, congratulations, Ann.
Thank you.
And last but not least, our top three. And it goes to Dagan. Good job, Dagan.
All right, and with that, the meeting is adjourned.
All right, just one moment, please, while I stop the recording. And as I'm reaching for that button, appreciate everybody coming tonight on Zoom and especially to our guests for signing in. All right, stopping the recording.